everyone. Welcome to Foster Friday Live. I'm so glad that you are here and tuning in with us. As you join us, I hope that you'll just leave us a comment so that we can say hey to you. And if you have questions or you have advice or things to share, we would love for you to do that. Just leave us a comment. So today we are talking about marriage and relationships because we know foster care is hard. And if you are entering this with a spouse or a partner, or even if you just have relationships outside, hey Jill, if you have any type of relationships in your life, foster care is going to impact that. And so we are talking about that today. We are specifically talking about it in the context of marriage. So if your spouse maybe feels differently than you, or if your spouse and you are getting into it together, kind of what does foster care do to that relationship? So we're so glad y'all are here with us. But we've got Jon and Heidi with us today, and I'm gonna let you guys introduce yourself before we jump in.
So I'm Jon Sampson. This is my wife, Heidi. So we moved down to South Carolina about 5 years ago, specifically to get involved in foster care. So we had talked about foster care and adoption from even before we were married, while we were still dating. So we had an opportunity to come down here and do foster care kind of as a full-time ministry as family teachers at Thornwell in one of their residential cottages. So through the 2.5 years of doing that, we were able to care for, was it 67?
68.
67 kids that were all in the foster care system. We've learned even recently how unique that situation is and how different foster care is in the residential setting versus in your own home. But it's something that we really love and we really enjoy doing together.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit, because your time together in foster care and kind of how you have been involved has changed. So can you give us maybe just like a little overview of what that's looked like for you and then kind of where you're at now?
Yeah. So we worked for a few years at Thornwell as foster parents and family teachers in a home, and then we moved out when we adopted 2 boys. So they're in middle school, and we met them here working in foster care. And after that, it was a couple of years, and then we met a family that needed some help, so we entered a kinship care agreement with them. And that is essentially, it's like foster care, but the parents get to place their children with someone. So we were not blood related. It's called kinship care because a lot of times it's for families that the grandparents care.
So we were more like a fictive kin, I think they call it in the technical sense.
So we were fictive kin, someone that they trusted to care for their kids. And so that was between 16 and 18 months they were with us, and they have recently been reunited back home with their family. So it's been interesting to move with our boys who have been in foster care. They were also able to experience foster care from the other side and helping care for a family. So we're kind of in a new season where we don't have current foster kids in our home, but Jonathan works as a foster care recruiter, and we do foster care ministry at church and work with the county offices as well.
So how many years has it been that foster care has been a big part of your life, and then therefore your relationships?
Yeah, we've actually been doing foster care for about 5 years. Okay. So we had been talking about it for probably a year or so before that. So let's go kind of back to the beginning. You said you moved here to take on this challenge of foster care as a couple. How did that start? Was one of you on board, the other wasn't? How did you figure out how to make decisions together when this is such a huge life choice to jump into? Yeah, so for us, and we found this with a lot of other couples, in our case it was Heidi, she brought it up. She was very kind of enthusiastic about the idea of getting involved in foster care, and she had found this kind of house parent thing, but I was a little bit slower. So for us, we say that she's the gas and I'm the brakes. So she's just always ready to go, always ready to go, always ready to go. And then I'm like, wait a second, let's talk things through a little bit. So we've seen that as been a common theme in a lot of couples that have considered foster care. So it's not necessarily that we were on different pages, we were just kind of moving at different paces. So kind of the way that started and the way that we worked through that and most of the other big decisions in our life, it really started with a what if question. What if, so for when we first got started and were considering moving to South Carolina, Heidi said, what if we were house parents? What if we moved and did this full time? And then I had a bunch of questions. And so through that what if question, we were able to talk through a lot of my concerns or just questions and go through kind of scenarios. What about this? What about this? What about this? So that both of us got to a place of feeling comfortable with a decision.
And I think that that also goes for both sides. I think as it applies to couples that are getting into foster care who have not yet taken that step, what if can be on both sides. So for me, I was so excited about this opportunity, and so I had to kind of say, what if he doesn't say yes? What if he's not on board with me? What if we get here, just my idealistic expectations of this is going to be awesome and we're going to get to impact kids' lives. So what if this doesn't go as planned? What if, so that kind of was a good balance for us of gauging where we were at, being able to communicate those things. But then as you sit with those what if questions, it allows Jonathan, it allowed him to say, okay, that wouldn't be the worst thing if that happened. So let's take the next step into this.
So, and I think that we're talking about these questions in the context of, hey, Christy, we're glad that you've joined us. We're talking about this in the context of kind of before you got started, but I think a lot of couples, a lot of people are asking this question, you know, after they get started. So there are so many people that you can talk to, your family support coordinator, your caseworker. Care to Foster is a great resource for both before and after you've started the process. We want to talk to you about these things. And while we're talking about this in the context of marriage, I think it's good for us to just point out, you do not have to be married to be a foster parent. We know many single foster parents that thrive and do an amazing job. So in this case, you're doing it in the context of a marriage. So you jump in, you get started, 67 kids later. How does this impact your marriage? How does doing foster care together as a couple, how does that impact your relationship?
Okay, so I think that the main thing that we didn't know that we had to work through is grief. So a lot of times that's a deterrent to foster care. What if they leave my home? What if all these different things about
that what if question again?
What if the leaving, the saying goodbye, or even just processing the trauma of the kids in your care? I think that we didn't fully know the impact, which I don't think that you can fully know the impact until you're in that situation sometimes. But he grieves and deals with grief and trauma in a different way than I do. And so we didn't, at first, I don't think we identified that as grief. It was just the hard working of being a foster parent or a house parent.
Because you're juggling so many things, just trying to keep daily life moving at the same time that you're processing those internal.
Absolutely. And that's, but when we identify it, when we sit and talk about it, it comes down to grief, that change of expectation. We had an expectation that wasn't met, and that is at the base, that's grieving something, that change or that loss or that difference. So I'm a very outward, extrovert person in my processing, and he is very introverted. So that is something we actually started family teaching on our 2-year anniversary. So I would not suggest getting 10 kids on your 2nd anniversary. I would take a little slower, but that was something we didn't fully know each other. For those who have been married or together with someone for a long time, 2 years is very small. At the time, it seems like a lot.
My husband and I had been married just 1 year before when we got started. So you are learning your relationship, you're learning your marriage, you're learning the other person as you're learning this whole new world as foster care as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the as kind of cool things and things that's brought us closer together is just that kind of shared experience. Shared experiences can be super powerful in building relationships. So while we were still kind of building the foundation of our marriage relationship, we're able to share a lot of difficult and stressful and emotional situations that really kind of forced us to learn a lot about ourselves and each other and kind of how we interact and work together.
Yeah. So I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, but if you don't mind, like, what would be maybe an example of a really great thing or a really good experience you've shared together because of foster care that maybe has brought you closer together? I'm putting them on the spot. I apologize. Hey, Monica, we're glad you're here.
I would say probably our first experience, our first group of kids that we had when we were family teachers. That is kind of, we got thrown into the fire a little bit with these kids, but it really helped us to kind of learn and grow together. And it really kind of confirmed for us that foster care is something that we were supposed to be doing and that we were both passionate about. And so really from then on, it's like, if we can get through that, if we can get through those 10 kids, then we can get through anything. And those 10 kids were successfully reunified with their families. So we were able to have that experience of kind of working with the birth family a little bit and helping them transition back, which I think was really cool to see.
Yeah. I think for me, it's just seeing that we work together well. So I think especially when you're newly married and then you are also like by yourselves, you don't have children and other things. So your relationship and contacts with other, how this forever is going to go. I think it was very helpful and very telling, just encouraging of to me of our relationship, because we are opposites in a lot of ways, but we really we work well together. The teamwork aspect of just the logistics, the ins and outs of who's going to do bedtime and who's going to cook meals and who's going to transport and those kind of things, I think fell into place very easily for us. So that was encouraging.
So if you had one piece of advice, kind of as we wrap up some of our time together, for families, couples, individuals considering foster care or kind of in the middle of it and saying, wow, my marriage, my relationship, my friendships look different now, and I'm trying to reconcile that, what would your advice be for those people?
I would say it's a little kind of twofold. The first one is just proper communication and just constant communication. And as part of communication, listening, because like she mentioned, we both process things differently. So how we grieve, how we deal with things looks different. So it's easy for me to look at how she's handling things and be like, well, why are you doing it that way? So just being able to kind of communicate and understand that people are different, and you and your spouse or your partner, whoever, have different ways of dealing with things, and understanding and appreciating that.
I think that on top of that, just that communication, sometimes I was surprised at how much that needed to change. So I would say at the beginning of one day, okay, this is where I'm at and this is what needs to happen. But even sometimes by the middle of the day, if you get a new placement or if your own kid has a problem or something falls out of place, that can change very quickly. So I was waiting sometimes till the end of the day to say, okay, I've changed about where I'm at or what I need, and that causes tension and strife. So.
We were just talking earlier about, the kids are back to school and, okay, all this transition, the things at 8 a.m. that we said, we're going to be one way, by noon, by lunch are so different, and rolling with that together and being flexible. So, well, thank you guys so much. And Jon, I think you had a way that we can recommend for families specifically in the upstate, that an opportunity for you to take advantage of. Yeah,
so another piece of advice that I think has been really helpful for us is just to continue learning. So we really enjoy education and learning more. That helps us feel better equipped to parent our adopted kids that came from difficult situations and have some difficult behaviors, and like we've been talking about, managing our marriage through that. So at Thornwell's Foster Care Conference coming up next month, there's going to be a great breakout session on specifically about managing a relationship and maintaining a relationship in the midst of foster care and adoption. That's among a ton of other great breakout sessions and educational opportunities and time to connect with other foster parents. So you can learn more about that and register at thornwell.org.
Well, I think that we can all agree that our relationships, whether that's with our spouse or our family or our friends, are crucial, and not just because we love those people, but in foster care we need a great support system. So I hope that you will comment here and tell us what you do. What are the best tips and tricks that have worked for you with your support community, with your marriages, with your partners? Just let us know, because we want to hear. And if you have questions, feel free to post those in the comments, or reach out to Care to Foster, and we can pass those on to Jon and Heidi if you have questions for them. But thanks so much, and we will see you next week. Bye.